Your ancestors never locked a bathroom door because there were no bathrooms, no doors, no locks. So how did they ever feel alone? Think about that for a moment. Every morning of your life you wake up in a room with a door. You close it to dress, close it to cry, close it to be someone that no one else gets to see. Privacy feels as fundamental as breathing. Most people assume it is hardwired into human nature, that a caveman must have craved a locked door just as much as you do. This is the kind of question What Verse was built to answer. Questions that live right under the surface of normal life but change everything once you ask them. So, if that sounds like your kind of curiosity, you know where to find more. But that assumption is wrong, deeply wrong. And the real story of how ancient humans understood solitude will change how you see every wall in your home. Because here is the strange truth. Privacy is not a biological need, it is a technological invention. And for the vast majority of human existence, the very concept of being alone did not exist. The answer is stranger than you think. Imagine living your entire life in a crowded subway car. Every sound you make is heard, every expression is seen, every breath is shared air. That was not a bad day for ancient humans. That was every day. For 95% of human history, people lived in groups of 20 to 50 individuals. They slept together in tight clusters, ate together, gave birth together, died together. The idea of stepping into a separate room to be alone was impossible, because separate rooms did not exist yet. So here is the concept you need to understand first. Privacy requires 3 invisible technologies: walls that separate, doors that close, and a cultural agreement that a closed door means stay out. Without all 3, you cannot have privacy the way you understand it. Think of it like this. Privacy is a house with 3 locks. Remove any lock, and the whole thing falls apart. Ancient humans had none of them. But that does not mean they had no experience of solitude. And this is where most people get confused. They imagine miserable cavemen desperate for alone time, suffering in an endless crowd. That picture is wrong. What ancient humans had instead was something called intermittent invisibility. Not physical privacy, social privacy. The ability to disappear in plain sight. You have experienced this yourself. Walk into a busy coffee shop, sit in the corner. No one looks at you. You are surrounded by people but completely alone. That feeling is ancient. That feeling is the real story. But that is only the surface, because the deeper you go into this, the stranger it gets. Most people assume ancient humans desperately wanted what we have. More space, more walls, more locked doors. The ability to escape other people entirely. The evidence says the opposite. Anthropologists who have studied the last remaining hunter-gatherer groups on Earth found something surprising. When asked if they would like their own separate sleeping shelters, most said no. Not because they could not imagine it, because the idea felt wrong, dangerous, even lonely. Here is what changed their answer. In a traditional camp, everyone sleeps within earshot of everyone else. If someone has a nightmare, the group hears it. If someone coughs in the night, the group knows. This constant proximity is not noise. It is safety. It is the oldest alarm system in human history. Sleeping alone did not feel like freedom to ancient humans. It felt like abandonment. One anthropologist described it this way. Imagine being told you must now sleep in a glass box at the edge of the group. Separated, visible, but alone. That is not privacy. That is punishment. So the first great surprise is this. Privacy as you understand it, locked doors, closed rooms, unobserved moments, was not a missing luxury that ancient people suffered without. It was an alien concept they would have actively rejected, because being alone meant being vulnerable, and vulnerability in the Pleistocene was a death sentence. But here is what makes this truly interesting. They still found ways to be unseen, not through architecture, through attention, through the oldest human superpower, the ability to look away. And that discovery leads somewhere even stranger. Stop. Because what comes next contradicts what most historians assumed for decades. If ancient humans had no private spaces, how did they have sex? For a long time, the easy answer was simple. They waited until dark. They found a moment when others were asleep. They were quick and quiet. Victorian anthropologists painted this picture of furtive cave couplings in the shadows. That picture is almost certainly wrong. Researchers studying modern hunter-gatherer groups found something that broke their assumptions entirely. In many traditional societies, sex was not always private. It happened in shared spaces, while others were present, while others were awake. and no one cared. Here is the pattern interrupt that disturbed researchers when they first found it. In some groups, sexual activity was considered about as private as eating. You do not need to eat in a locked room. You just turn your back. You lower your voice. You do not announce it, but you also do not hide like a criminal. This was not shame. It was the opposite. The group was not intruding on a private moment. The moment was simply not the group's business. Attention is the currency of privacy, and ancient humans controlled their attention, not their architecture. So the real surprise is this. Ancient privacy was not a physical state. It was a social agreement, a mutual blink. We all agree not to look at what is happening 3 meters away. But that discovery opens a much deeper question. If privacy was invisible, how did they ever truly feel alone? And here is what almost no one talks about. The need for solitude is real. Humans cannot survive without moments of psychological withdrawal. But that need did not wait for walls. It found other channels. The next part took anthropologists decades to accept. Ancient humans achieved solitude through 3 invisible technologies that are still inside you today. First, the gaze shift. You have heard of fight or flight. There is a third response called stillness. When a baboon wants to be left alone, it freezes and looks away. The signal means, I am not a threat. Do not engage with me. Humans do the exact same thing. A hunter-gatherer sitting at the edge of a camp, staring at the horizon, is not zoning out. They are broadcasting, do not talk to me, and the group obeys. Second, the ritual trance. Almost every ancient culture had practices that induced altered states. Drumming, dancing, fasting. These were not just spiritual ceremonies. They were scheduled solitude. A person could sit in the middle of a crowded camp but be completely unreachable because they were communing with ancestors, spirits, or a vision. No one interrupts a person in trance. That would be dangerous. Third, the walk. In nearly every traditional society, people left camp alone, not for hours, not to some secret cave, just a short walk. Far enough that voices faded, close enough to return in minutes. This was the original private room. Mobile, temporary, perfect. Here is the emotional weight of this. You still do all 3. When you put on headphones in a crowded train, you are doing what your ancestors did when they shifted their gaze. When you close your eyes in a meditation app, you are doing what they did in ritual trance. When you take the long way home just to be in your car alone for 5 more minutes, you are walking the ancient walk. You are not more private than they were. You just have better props. But none of that fully answers the original question. The real answer is both simpler and far more unsettling. So how did ancient humans have privacy? They did not. Not the way you mean it. Not the locked door, closed curtain, nobody watching version that feels so essential to your daily life. That version did not exist, could not exist, because privacy is not a human right written into our biology. Privacy is a product of the Neolithic Revolution. When humans started farming, they built the first permanent houses, then the first separate rooms, then the first doors that closed, then the first locks. Each invention created a new expectation. Each expectation hardened into a need. 10,000 years later, you wake up believing that a bedroom door is as natural as your own lungs. But here is the callback you have been waiting for. Remember the subway car, the crowded camp, the feeling of being surrounded but alone. Ancient humans had something you have lost. They could be in the middle of 40 people and feel perfectly private because the group agreed not to see them. You can be in a locked room and feel completely watched because the group is inside your phone. The door does not give you privacy. The door gives you the illusion of privacy. True solitude was never about architecture. It was about trust. The trust that no one will look when you need to be unseen. The trust that you can turn your back without being stabbed. The trust that the group will blink. You have more locks than any human in history, and you have never felt more watched. So here is the question you did not expect to be holding at the end of a video about ancient history. When was the last time you felt truly alone? Not isolated, not lonely, alone in the good way, the way where no one is watching, no one is waiting, no one is calculating your worth. Just you, breathing, thinking, being. For your ancestors, that feeling came from a gaze shift, a short walk, a moment in trance. For you, it might come from a locked bathroom at 2 a.m., a long drive with no destination, turning your phone face down and leaving it in another room. The technology changes, the need does not. You are not a modern creature trapped in an ancient body. You are an ancient creature surrounded by modern tools. And somewhere underneath all the notifications, the expectations, the endless visibility, that older version of you still knows how to disappear in plain sight. They did not need walls to be alone, and neither do you. Here is what I want to know, and I want you to answer this in the comments. What is the one place where you actually feel alone? Not distracted, not scrolling, truly alone with your thoughts. A specific chair, a certain trail, 3 in the morning when the whole house is asleep. Tell me where your version of the ancient walk happens. I read these, and if this video made you look at your own locked door a little differently, what verse has 100 more questions just like it waiting for you? Questions about your body, your history, the strange invisible architecture of your daily life. Hit subscribe, not because a voice told you to, because your curiosity already knows where it belongs. Thanks for watching, and see you in our next video.